Hi everyone, Angie here in the Spark once again, ready to show you another cool little craft project you can do this summer. This one's kind of fun because we're going to take a baseball and turn it into a keychain. Yeah, and it's a pretty good, nice little heavy duty keychain, and it reminds you of, the baseball and sports and all that we're missing right now. And you can customize it so you can do different colors. So for this one I did a purple and green string rather than the traditional red. This one here is kind of cool. Went with a orange and lime green and black, so you could customize your keychain for different sports teams. Like maybe you want Brewers blue, or maybe you have your own personal ball team that you're on and you want to make some custom keychains. But it's a fun little project, and I'm going to show you how to get it done. Here are the supplies you're going to need to create your baseball keychain. So obviously a baseball, and I have an embroidery needle which you can see it has a larger hole, and it's not a very sharp needle, but you do want something that's a little sturdier because you're going to be going through the holes of the leather. So don't use a little tiny needle, use a good size embroidery one. And then I have an 1.5 inch key ring here. That's a good size for a standard baseball one. You can use different key rings. If you use a smaller size, you're going to need a leather hole punch that helps put holes in your piece of leather for the baseball. Makes making the keychain a little easier, but this 1.5 inch is the perfect size otherwise. And then of course it has some embroidery thread, your standard, crafting, cross-stitching embroidery thread there. And I'm using red because I want it to look more like, a baseball. And so you can obviously use different colors if you want to do a specific team, so maybe you're going for like the Brewers blue, or you want to do red and black because you want to have the Milton colors in there. But either one works. And then you're going to need something to cut your baseball apart. So I'm going to use this utility knife, and I'll show you how to do that. It's actually pretty simple. You just need to be careful. But those are your basic supplies. So our first step is to prep our baseball. Again, you can use a new baseball, an old baseball, doesn't matter. I did find that the newer the ball, the easier it is to take apart. But the end goal is to have a piece of leather like this from the ball. And actually, there's 2 on every ball, so you can get 2 keychains out of one baseball. But it's very simple. You're going to take your utility knife, and you don't need a lot of the blade, but adults only, please. You're going to, this is hard to film, right here where the seams meet and the stitching goes across, you're going to cut very carefully in that groove. So I want to do it safely, so it's hard for me to show you on film, but very carefully cut between the stitches along the seam. Now you're going to have to do it several times, probably. It's easier if you set it on a table. And go slow because 1, you don't want to cut yourself, and 2, you don't want to cut the leather can see there it's starting to come apart. You only want to cut the string. So see how I've cut the red string, the red thread there, and now I can start to pull the baseball apart. And it's very simple, really not too difficult. Takes maybe about 10-15 minutes to go all the way around the ball. And like I said, work your way slow because the end goal is to keep the holes. You see these holes right here? You don't want to cut those because you're going to reuse these holes. Since they're already punched in the leather for you, it's a lot simpler to assemble your keychain by using the pre-existing holes. So I'm just going to cut a little more here. All the way around. You know, it takes a little practice. I've cut apart about a dozen of these already this summer, and you get pretty quick at it. But yeah, so you get the ball apart, and you want to pull out all this old string. And what's cool is this is what the inside of a baseball looks like if you didn't know. And it is sticky from the glue that's used to hold the ball together and all that string. But that's okay. I mean, you may just have to wash your hands after this project, but you know, no worries about whether it won't affect your ability to make the keychain. So yeah, work your way around the ball till you get both pieces off, and you want to end up with this nice piece of leather here. I took all the old red string or thread out, and then we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, so once I have my piece of leather ready to go, I've got my key ring here, and all I need to do is fold the leather up a little bit, slide it through the key ring, and then I'm going to fold it in half right over the top. So let's fold it on itself with the key ring sandwiched in there, and make sure, you know, for ease of use, make sure your split on the ring right there is at the top and not buried underneath your leather piece here. Then I want to try to line up my holes as best as possible so that I can start sewing the edges back together. And to do that, I'm just going to take my thread here. I've got about 2 yards of embroidery thread because I don't want to run out. It probably takes less than that, but just to make sure I have enough string. And then, you know, just thread the needle here. Shouldn't be too difficult. An embroidery needle. The big eye there works pretty good. And then holding up your 2 pieces together, you want to get as close as possible to the key ring. Right here you can see there's 1 hole in the key by the key ring, and then there are 2 holes right next to it. I'm going to go the very next hole down because I want to get it as close as possible to my ring there. Like that. So I'm nice and close to the key ring. And again, make sure your holes are lined up because it'll look kind of wonky if it's not exactly straight. Then you are going to want to tie a knot on your first stitch there. Make it nice and tight because you don't want it to come undone as you're going along. Okay, so there, I got a nice tight little knot there, and then what I'm going to do, because I want the keychain to look nice, I'm going to, hard to show, but I'm going to spread this apart and tuck my end in here so that it looks nicer. Kind of don't want that sticking out. That way it stays tied. Stays tied good and tight. And now I've got the first stitch started, so now I'm ready to continue to stitch. So you want to make sure you're always going in the top, like pick a side of your keychain that's going to be your top. So then make sure you're always going in the top and down the bottom. You want to keep going in the same direction. And then, so when you bring your needle up, you're going to wrap around the edge here because I want it to look like the baseball seams that we have on a baseball, right? So the goal is to go around the outside edge of the keychain and just keep your holes lined up. You know, it takes a little practice. Keep your string from tangling. This is a good project to do while you're listening to some music or maybe an audiobook. And also keep your loop here free. Don't, knot yourself up or cross, okay? But that's what you're gonna do around the whole outside edge of your keychain. Just keep going in the top hole, down through the bottom hole, and keep yourself lined up. So you'll work your way all the way around the keychain. Depends how good of a stitcher you are, but eventually you'll come back around, and I'm going to show you on this one since I have this here. You'll come back around, and then you want to finish off the same way as you started. Put a nice little knot right there. So once you've stitched, and I'm going to show you on this one since it's already been stitched, once you've gotten all the way around the outside of your keychain, the two halves of leather should be together real good, and your key ring should be stuck in there nice and tight. And then, so you want to knot it off right here, and then just cut, leave about 1/2 inch or so of string. Excuse me. And then I'm going to take my needle here and very carefully use the end of it to kind of stuff the rest of that string down in there because I don't want to see it. I don't want it to stick out if I can make this look nicer. Takes a little practice, but so once it's tucked in, keychain looks pretty nice. Now if you do make a softball one out of a softball, you can use a leather punch and punch, instead of the key ring fitting right inside the leather piece, you may need to punch 2 holes right here, and then you would end up looping your key ring through those holes because it's a little too wide. You'd have to have a really big keychain for that to fit, but it is possible to make one with a softball. It's just easier with a right size baseball. But there you have it. We've got a nice cool little keychain. You can use any baseball out there that you want, and if you want to try your hand at making one, we've got some kits left here at the library, so just give us a call or stop in when we're open, and we can gladly set you up with one. We won't have a full baseball in the kit. We'll give you a piece of leather. So they're already, the hard part's done for you already. You can just pick up one of those kits and try your hand at making a baseball and baseball keychain. So I hope you all, or pick up your own supplies and go ahead and give it a try. If you want to try another fun Spark program, we have another one for adults coming up in August. It's August 4th, and we're going to be taking wine bottles and playing around with some glue and tissue paper. Make this a little light. So let us know if you're interested, and we can sign you up for that. Otherwise, hope you all are having a great summer, and stay safe and happy, and we'll see you next time. Bye.